Hello and welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Angelic Footprints podcast. I have a special guest with me. Her name is Bethany Shelton. Now, Bethany is the founder of Bee Limitless Now. She's a quantum healer and a guide between worlds. Doesn't that just sound amazing? After the loss of her only son, Cavan, Bethany awakened to a deeper calling, one that bridges grief into purpose and connects the physical with the unseen. She works closely with her angelic realms and her son in spirit to facilitate deep energetic clearings, heart activations, and frequency shifts. I don't know about you, but I certainly want to be a part of this beautiful vibration with Bethany, and you, as our listeners, can be that with that as well. Now, Bethany also helps to quiet others in the mind, connect with their hearts, and remember who they truly are. Bethany, welcome to the show. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here with you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, yeah, I'm Bethany, and if you are ready to absolutely feel frequency, vibration on the next level, you're going to enjoy this podcast. So, yeah, to kind of get it all started, it's been an interesting to say the least, how this all came about. Before I had this amazing experience, I had no idea about frequency, energy, vibration, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, quantum entanglement. I had no idea. So, how this all began is in 2020, my son was fixing to head off to the University of Tennessee here in the States, and he was going to study there at college. Well, as we all know, COVID-19 came, and so he was at home studying virtually online. Well, I was at work one night, and I was working this like little third shift job, and my boss comes to me and is like, "Bethany, I need you to clock out." I'm like, "What? Clock out?" And she was like, "Yeah, you've got family out in the parking lot." And I was like, "Okay." So I clock out. Well, I pop the doors open and I go out there, and every single one of my immediate family is staring at me. I was like, "Well, this is really weird," you know? So my mom sits me down and she's like, "Bethany, I need to tell you something." I was like, "Okay." She said, "Bethany, Cavan's been killed tonight. He was hit head on, and a guy crossed over the center line, hitting him head on, killing him instantly." Now, this is my only child, my life, my everything. And in that moment, I absolutely crumbled. I let out a scream. And as I'm telling you this, there's a virtual screen that's coming down, and I'm right there in that seat in that car that, I can feel it, I'm sensing it, and I let out a scream so rare, so foreign to me that I collapsed into the floor. And in that moment, it was interesting, Dogmar, because all I could think about was, I'm a failure. I failed to keep my son safe. I blamed, shamed myself for missing every motorcycle race, and I was devastated, absolutely devastated. And I didn't know how I was going to get through this. And I called my son's father, and he said, "Bethany, I'm going to come pick you up." I was like, "Yeah, yeah." So we go down and we start making the arrangements, and it's the day of the funeral, and I am absolutely devastated. And I drop to my knees. I'm in my son's room, and I called to God, and I said, "God, please, I am begging you, please send me some kind of sign to help me get through this." And so I'm at the burial and I'm walking away, and my best friend of 36 years has my arm. It's a cloudy day, and she taps me. She said, "Look." Well, in that moment, I look up, Dagmar, and the clouds part, and one of the most beautiful rainbows pop through. I absolutely fell to my knees again, and I didn't realize how big that moment was for me up until a little bit later. And so, there was my sign. There was what I had just asked for to show me that Cavan was okay. And so, that next year, I really started to research NDEs, near death experiences.
Yeah.
And what these people were coming back and saying to me, saying just blew my mind. They didn't want to come back to the body. They were totally having the best experiences in spirit, that the body was the challenge. And so I found this fascinating. And in this year, I started to receive downloads that I did not know any of this information that was coming through me. But I was told, I was enough aware that I understood that I needed to write it down.
Right.
So I started to write down all of this information. Well, just up until a few months ago, I would go back into this journal, and the information that I was receiving blew my mind. And I started to like get that first year was really challenging, but I started to kind of, okay, this information is interesting, interesting. Well, one day I'm sitting on my couch and I was like, you know what? I need to go get in the shower. So I go to the shower and I pull back my shower curtain and I look down and there is coins inside of my shower. Now, I don't know about you and your guest, but I myself, I don't usually shower
With
with
coins.
coins. I don't have pockets. I don't have them in my hands. So I picked up this coin and I looked at it and it had my son's death year on it, 2020. And I was like, well, that's interesting. I wasn't able to put it together at that time. So several days had passed and I get up out of the bed and I make my bed as I normally do. That night, I come, get in the bed, I pull the sheets back, and what do I find? Coins. I inside of the bed, and I still wasn't able to put it together. But 2 weeks had passed by, and I go, and here's where mind shift number one happens. I go in my living room and I go to vacuum. I vacuum my whole house, the whole house. I go put the vacuum cleaner up. I come back in the living room, and what do I find? Coins on my freshly vacuumed carpet. Now, these coins were not just there. They were not just there. I just vacuumed this floor. They were not there. I picked it up. I looked at it, had my son's birth year on it. I said, man, this is interesting. So I called my mom. I said, Mom, I said, something strange is going on. I'm finding coins everywhere. She said, oh my goodness, Bethany, your father and I, we are finding coins everywhere. I said, what? She said, "Yep, I think it's Cavan trying to talk to us." I said, "What?" I hung up the phone. I ran out onto my deck. I said, "Cavan, hey, buddy, if this is you, can you come to me as a bluebird or a redbird?" Dogmar, the very next day, everywhere I turned, there was a blue jay or a cardinal. Everywhere I turned. In that moment, I I said, "Oh my goodness, this child is trying to communicate with me." I then began to get so excited about each day. Oh, how's he going to communicate with me now? And so by that awareness alone, that's when I started to understand and get the downloads from my spirit team, from my angelics, that energy and frequency is the key. Now, what I have found is that when I was in what I'll call lower states of frequency, lower aspects, which are grief, which vibrates on a hertz of 75 hertz. Sorrow vibrates at 20 hertz. Death vibrates at 0 hertz. So you mean to tell me when I am in grief and I am blaming, shaming, less than, not enough, and sorrow, hurt, blame, shame, all the same things. I am vibrating on a field right next to death,
Yeah.
on a frequency field right next to death. Now, when you do that, you on a frequency alone, you throw your body, because you're right next to death, into fight or flight. Now, what does that do to the body? That puts dis-ease. And if you do this long enough and vibrate in those frequencies long enough, you are absolutely breaking your body down.
Yeah.
And this is what's amazing how it's really, I had no idea. Well, we weren't taught this. We weren't taught about frequency, energy, and vibrations. We weren't.
True. It's true.
So, and yeah. And so my angelics came through one day and said, and Cavan, they brought it to me like this. Okay, so when my son was on the physical plane, just like how I'm talking to you right now, we kind of vibrated on the same frequency field. But when my son went back into energy, into spirit, he rose. Energy, he went back and is vibrating at a much higher rate. Well, I dropped into blame, grief, and sorrow.
Yeah.
Well, do you see how far it is to communicate? He's in a higher frequency and I'm in a lower. You can't vibrate in a lower frequency and think that you're gonna have higher communications with higher frequency beings. That's just not a thing. It's just not a thing. So that was some of the first awarenesses that I understood from my teams.
It's beautiful, and, having worked as a medium, and I've said this many times when I've done, demonstrations, I explain it to the audience exactly like you say. Me as the medium, I still need to lift my vibration, and spirit needs to drop their vibration to a level so that the two can meet. And what you're saying is exactly in alignment with what you've just,
Mhm.
shared with everybody.
Yes. And people are like, "Well, Bethany," some of my clients are like, "Well, how do I get into higher rates of frequency?" And I'm like, "Okay, that's a really great question because once again, we weren't taught this." And, later on, I'll tell what my teams came through and showed me how we were programmed to stay in lower aspects of frequency that blew my mind. But, it's just so how I can say how to get into higher elevated states is becoming conscious, coming aware of each now moment, and presence, this moment right here, right now, is all that exists, really, and getting out of the mind is the number one. But getting into the heart is where the power, where the creation, where the connection to higher aspects are. And, feeling getting into the heart space of love, compassion, being grateful for the experience. Even if you don't at that moment, at the early stages, you'll have to convince yourself, you're like, "Okay," 'cause, sometimes when you're in grief, you don't want to feel that. But what I get my clients to understand is that by you staying in the grief and in the sorrow, you are only hurting yourself on a frequency and energetic level, but you're also putting the body into fight or flight. So staying in those heart-centered spaces of love, compassion, gratefulness, gratefulness vibrates at 900 hertz.
Yeah.
And by being grateful for each moment is where you will start to elevate. Yeah.
Bethany, your stories are absolutely inspiring. And, when you were telling everybody about the experience of learning about, your son's passing, I mean, my heart just skipped a few beats. And I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about how you now work with the angelic realm, obviously, because we're on the Angelic Footprints podcast show. So,
Yeah.
would you like to share a little bit more about that, please, for our listeners?
Yes. Okay. Well, this this is how my angelics came to me. So, and you know, I want to remind your audience. I had no idea that this was even possible, right? Like I said again, and I can't emphasize this enough. We weren't taught this stuff. So one night I'm asleep and I am awakened at 3:33 in the morning, and I was woken up and told to go outside, and I knew when I had these energetic and intuitive hits, that's exactly what you do. So I'm like, "Okay, look, we're going outside at 3:33 in the morning." So I go out onto my deck and I'm in my pajamas, no shoes on, and I'm sitting out there and I am just present. I am enjoying, I am grateful, I am just absolutely ecstatic to just listen to the frogs, to listen to the crickets, to look at the night sky. And I am and like I said before, because this whole conversation is all about frequency, energy, and vibration. And, I am really in it. I am present and I am just vibrating. And all of a sudden, uh, I have a 13-acre lake that in my backyard. A golden orbed being flies down and flies the whole length of my 13-acre lake and back.
Wow.
Now I have not witnessed anything like this, and in that moment, Dagmar, I had right now I've got complete surges, yes, goosebumps. I felt the most compassionate, loving frequency energy that I have ever experienced in my whole life. It was the most beautiful experience that I to this date that I've had. It just warmed my body from the inside out, and I just sat there and relished in it for a few minutes, and then the golden orb being went up, and in that moment, I had downloads. I had something shifted within my body being an aura and my field of higher aspects. And so now I have a direct line, as you could say, with my teens, my angelics, and it has absolutely transformed every aspect of my life. Something that I if your audience members are looking to connect with their teams, the one thing I could advise and suggest is setting intentions are huge. Setting the intention, I would love to connect. Our spirit teams, our guides and our angelics cannot come in because we have free will. But if you invite them in and you invite them to be a part of your life and to invite them to be a part of your day, to help you to find out the answer, they are waiting. They are on pins and needles waiting for you to invite them in.
Oh,
But what's
yeah.
interesting is that as humans, we think the communication should come to us like how I'm speaking with you right now. And I mean, when you have the telepathy, I can hear them just like I'm talking to you, but at the beginning, it doesn't come in ways and forms like that. You know, everything can communicate with you. Everything has a spirit. All birds, all plants, all animals, and they come in so many amazing ways. But gaining the awareness of the connection, being conscious and aware of each now moment. When you see a bird, just like yesterday, I was walking my dog and I look up and I see five crows and a squirrel all in the same yard. And so what was interesting is, if you don't have the telepathy, go when you see something like that, when you gain awareness, go and ask, you can ask your bot, your chat GPT or on the computer, what's the spiritual meaning of five crows and a squirrel? And see what you get. I mean, I could share so many stories of how my teams come in and communicate with me and how I gain awareness is just by something like as simple as that.
It's actually so beautiful, and, it is a great reminder that we don't get taught any of this stuff at school. Like, how cool would it have been, instead of going to some boring class, to have a school on a session on spirituality and telepathy and being able to understand all of this.
Yes, and, that's so interesting that you say that because exactly, we weren't taught the only thing we were taught is that the only way to believe it is if you see it. What? And here's the thing about it is that we as humans only see on a light spectrum 0.035 on the light spectrum. We are walking around here blind as bats. No, seriously, honeybees see light through ultraviolet. Snakes see light through infrared. And we see just the smallest fraction of light. And there is so much out there that we can't see with our eyes, but once you understand frequency and energy, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You feel it, and here's a great story that I have with that. This Mother's Day, it was Mother's Day, and, I could have spun out and said, "Oh my god, I don't get to see my son for Mother's Day." Now, don't get me wrong, I will always miss seeing my son through my eyes, and I will always miss putting my arms around him, but I know that there's so many other ways I get to interact. So, on Mother's Day, I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Hey, Cavan, hey, I sure do need you to show up and show out for mom today. Today's Mother's Day, so I am so excited and I love you." I walked out of my garage. Now, all of us have an electromagnetic field,
Yes.
an energy field
Yes.
that that precedes us at least 6 to 8 feet out in front of us and 360 degrees around us. So this is your electromagnetic field. You'll hear people say the field, and this is your field. Now, what was interesting when I walked out of my garage, I had the most beautiful bird come and fly into my field and land 3 feet in front of me. Now, if this bird was not there to share its energy frequency with me, it would have landed in some other tree and some other yard. It would not have landed 3 feet in my field.
Yeah.
So when this bird did, honey, I'm telling you what, I got so excited. I was like, "Oh," because I could have sense, feel, and know, and I also had the telepathy with it. That bird was in my field to share its frequency of love, joy, and happiness. And me and that bird sat there and communicated for at least 3 minutes. And that was my Mother's Day gift, and right now, as I'm telling you that story, I'm experiencing it all over again because it was such a fun, magical time.
It's what
Yeah,
it's what we take away from it, isn't it? If we look at everything in the spiritual realm from a logical perspective and only look at it from, the science or the logic, then we can miss out on so much. As you say, there's the telepathy, there's the
exactly.
communication that we have to learn. This is another language that we're learning.
But that's what you've been programmed and taught to do, to not pay attention to it, to not think, to discount it as a coincidence. Oh, that's nothing. And to lock, block, and stop you from experiencing other aspects of higher density frequency.
Yeah. In
We've
terms
been taught to do.
You're absolutely right. In terms of the way you help your clients now, Bethany, how would you say that that's affected your life and them? How has that influenced your life, the way that you live your life and you have your business now?
Well, Dogmar, if you would have told me in 2020 that this is what I'd be doing, I'd have told you, baby, you've lost your mind. There's no way. But you know what? And that's the thing. When you step into your heart, when you step out of your mind and start to make, I guess, choices and experiences from your highest excitement, wow, wow, your whole world just absolutely transforms. And the only thing that, with my clients, I have to share this information of what I have experienced and the growth, because I didn't experience trauma. I experienced post-traumatic growth.
Which
And
which is
you
amazing, I mean, in itself, isn't it? The fact that the way that you say that, and I think, having a loved one pass definitely does bring us trauma. I mean, you were describing that scream, when you heard the
yeah.
news, but this growth that you've experienced, wow.
But, and this is how my teams brought it to me that, you know what? My son and I had a soul contract agreement before I embodied. Cavan picked me as his mom, and him and I had a soul contract that he was going to give me the experience of death and separation and loss on a soul level.
Yeah.
So when you look at it from that experience, this is only, what died, the body or the being? Because, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it only transformed. So, yes, his body died, but the being, no, I can still communicate with the being just like I am with you, like I've said multiple times today.
Yeah. It's
So, and that's what I get my clients to get them into a frequency, a vibration where and out of the mental body and into higher rates of vibration so they too can connect with their loved one.
yeah. And that's beautiful. That is so valuable as well. Bethany, would you like to share with our listeners any kind of workshops, any books, anything that you have that our listeners might want to use to connect with you going forward, and maybe even share your social media handles or website, please?
Yes, yes. Please come over. And, one of the biggest things I can give to humanity and to the collective is my time. So when you go over to my website, Bee, like a bumblebee, BEE, limitlessnow.com, and click and get a no cost discovery call. Let's go in. Let's on an energy level. Let's see what's got you locked, blocked, and stopped, and we'll clear it in all space, place, time, dimension, density, reality, parallel reality, omniverse, multiverse, universe. And let's see. When my clients show up to me, their cup's already full. So let's go in and remove on an energetic level, so you can start to have other possibilities to come in. If your cup's already full, it's hard to attract anything new. So, yeah, and also you can go I have on my website, I have a free gift, you can download off my website, and it is a, 7-day journal, how to transmute pain into purpose. And then also you can follow me on TikTok at Bee Limitless Now. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Bethany. So, for all of you listeners, and I really do hope that, if you're feeling a little bit stuck, if you're not quite sure where you are vibrating and you want some more information on that, please get in touch with Bethany on Be Limitless Now, and she can definitely point you, give you some pointers on how to move that life forward. And you might even choose to do some work with Bethany on that as well. Bethany, are there any final thoughts that you would like to share with our listeners before we finish for today?
Sure, I would want your everyone in your audience to know just how magical they are and just how powerful they are. And that from my heart to theirs, I'm sending them so much love.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you. Yes, you are all powerful. We are all powerful, much more powerful than we often give ourselves credit for. And really, I want you to see that in yourselves too. And it's one of the reasons, you do the work you do, I do the work I do, because I want to get this message out to everybody to be really able to fulfill your potential. So do get in touch with Bethany. Bethany, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. And I want to say thank you so much for being here. For all our listeners, if you enjoyed the show, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. And if you found the episode valuable, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you are listening. In the meantime, may your life be filled with hope and inspiration.